Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. As a 19-year-old university student, I had an NDE at a very stressful and exam-filled period of the semester. I had been stressed and researching and had not eaten or slept much that week. I went out with my boyfriend and another buddy one night to decompress and get away from the books. We were having a pleasant and routine conversation. We'd smoked some marijuana, which I had developed a tolerance to after smoking a few smokes. I used both of these drugs frequently and had no significant side effects. But that night, I think it was the mix of emotional and physical stress with the narcotics that caused me to feel quite faint. In an instant, my blood pressure dropped and my eyesight became interspersed with black dots surrounded by sickly green. I was leaning against a car next to my lover and tried to reach out and shout his name, but I couldn't at the time. I knew I was going down as the black dots increased and filled my vision. In my ears, there was a loud buzzing. This was my first fainting experience, and I had the feeling of film running through a projector that had ignited and began to be eaten away at parts, eventually being devoured by darkness. Everything was pitch black and silent at this moment. I was completely unaware of my surroundings and felt nothing. Everything was black and silent. There were no thoughts, only blackness. I found myself in the center rear seat of a car not long after. The car had 4 more passengers in it, 1 in each of the other seats. This part of my experience is blurry. I didn't pay great attention to the people or my surroundings, but it was a bright area. I was terrified and perplexed, but not too so, because I thought these folks were there to protect and assist me. I'm an only child, yet these people felt like my 4 brothers, people I had known my entire life. I had the impression that they were all male and a little older than I was at the time. I could tell they were talking between themselves, deciding where to take me. I didn't pick up on the specifics of their chat, I just got the essence of it. I trusted their judgment and remained silent. It didn't take long for them to make their decision. I was barreling down a pure white enamel canyon at breakneck speed, wind whooshing through my ears. I initially assumed I was riding on the back of a beautifully colorful bird because my perspective position was directly above it. It was white with a faint lavender tinge, and its feathers were iridescently swirling. Everything, even the bird, radiated an ethereal white light. Everything was carved in bright, clear colors. It was the most stunning location I'd ever seen. The canyon floor was covered in magnificent green trees, and a little, sparkling brook ran through it. The bird reduced its flight to tree level and weaved in and out of the thick trees faster than I'd ever felt myself move. I was concerned that the bird would strike one of these trees, crushing us both. At this time, I understood I was in charge of the bird's actions. I was the bird. My perspective shifted to the bird's own eyes. As if it were second nature, I boldly walked between the trees, right, left, right. At this point, I knew I had to go somewhere, and it was the most essential thing I'd ever had to do. I had a feeling that at the end of that canyon, toward which I was pushing with every fiber of my being, lay complete bliss, love, and acceptance. I'd never desired anything more than to get to my destination in that location, faster and faster. I ignored a voice calling to me from behind. It persisted and gradually began to clutch at me. I was irritated that anyone would interrupt me at this, the most critical moment of my life. I seemed to have glanced back in rage, physically nauseated by the interruption, as if to shout, "What? Get out!" That's when I realized I was still in my old body, living in my old life. Someone had hung the shabby, moth-eaten curtain of reality around me again, limiting my view of that wonderful location. I was deeply depressed. I'd come so damn close. I couldn't help but assume I'd been dropped back into the dream world as I lay on the cement, head aching and belly churning. This reality, this location, was much foggier and darker than the other, so much less genuine. At this point, I was informed that I had collapsed, taken a pretty heavy impact to the head on the pavement, stayed unconscious for a while, and then had a seizure. I had flawless recall of the truth that I had experienced and excitedly vomited it out to slightly indifferent ears. It's worth noting that my NDE timeline appears to correspond with what happened to my body in the physical world. Specifically, I was in the automobile while passed out cold and was flying across the canyon during the syncope. The timing of these events appears to be coincidental. About 2 minutes out cold in the automobile and 1 minute seizing or flying. In any event, my disenchantment with reality lasted only a couple of days. Above all, I felt deep gratitude for being shown something that most people are not allowed to experience in this lifetime. It has given me renewed hope that the cosmos is good and that it is always ready to embrace us in its embrace of pure love. We are not alone, and there is no need to be afraid of death because it is not an end, but rather a beginning. Every day, I think about and gain strength from my NDE. I was not reared in a religious household, if I may call it that. I now believe in God. For me, God is the soothing light that imbues everything with being and loves us all. This is a very personal experience, and a relationship with this light provides me with immense comfort and inspires me to do good in the world. I'm more sensitive to people and less judgmental than before. I recognize today, more than ever, that kindness and assisting others are direct manifestations of the light, and that the best we can do in this world is to spread God's incandescence here on earth. It nourishes our souls as well as the souls of others. Why else would we be here, in this frail and imperfect environment? Suffering exists to offer us the opportunity to overcome and grow. The ultimate satisfaction comes from making something beautiful out of something ugly. A few words on my health in relation to my NDE. I used to get migraines on a regular basis before the incident, but I haven't had one in almost 13 years. I'd never had a seizure before, and I haven't had one since. It has been tested and the results have been negative. An MRI was also performed following the incident to examine the degree of any brain injury, but none was discovered. I'm frightened of having another fainting episode, and I'm afraid I'll fly out of my body at any moment. This is ironic, given that I no longer fear death. I guess pain and suffering continue to frighten me. This is a source of concern for me, but it is one that I've learned to manage. I appear to be more sensitive to loud noises and medications than before, and I've lost interest in certain superficial things, such as popular television and material accumulation. I continue to deal with long-standing self-esteem issues, but I believe I'm finally coming to terms with them, thanks in large part to my NDE and the insights it has provided. Insights that seem to become more strong as time passes. Finally, I have no doubt that the circumstances of my experience were unique to me. This is not to claim that it was unbelievable. Rather, we should make this experience, or have someone else make it for us, as personal and comforting as possible. Being a passive passenger in the car was significant for me because I had not yet learned to drive and was struggling with self-esteem issues at the time. My helpers' ages and genders would symbolize the demographic in whom I could have trust and confidence at the time in my life. Furthermore, having more help implies having greater confidence, which I was severely lacking at the moment. The bird is a stylized depiction of my beloved pet, Parakeet, which died approximately a year before the event. Taking control of the bird's flight is an affirmation of competence and self-worth, both of which I've struggled with in my daily life. The trees were deciduous species similar to those found in my hometown. I've always been fascinated with streams and creeks, and I used to go there as a kid. The wide enamel canyon reminds me of the borders of the bathtub we had in our house when I was a kid. Despite all of these personalizations, several aspects of my experience correlate with NDEs experienced by a larger number of other people. So, it appears to me that in most situations, the principle is largely the same, but the details are unique to the person having the experience. The universe exists without matter and is pliable to our thoughts. It is not only more real than this fabricated world, but it is also more lovely.